The great hall of the neutral station was built for giants. The ceiling stretched so high that clouds could form inside. The floors were made of black stone that had been polished for 1,000 years. Representatives from 100 different species walked through its corridors every day. They came to trade. They came to argue. Sometimes they came to declare war. Today, they came to watch humanity be humiliated. Li Te stood at the entrance of the hall and looked up. He was not a tall man. He was not a strong man. He was 34 years old, and his black hair was already showing threads of gray from stress. He wore the simple blue uniform of the United Earth Fleet, and on his chest was a single silver star that marked him as a captain. Behind him stood his delegation. There were only 6 of them. Lieutenant Park Soo was the youngest, a woman of 26 with sharp eyes that never stopped moving. She held a small recording device in her hands. The others were diplomats and translators, all of them nervous, all of them trying not to show it. The aliens in the hall watched them walk. Some of them laughed. Others simply stared with what might have been pity. Humanity had only discovered faster than light travel 12 years ago. In the vast history of the galaxy, they were newborns, babies taking their first steps, while ancient empires watched and waited to see if they would fall. The Galactic Assembly had already made their judgment. Humans were classified as a Tier 7 species. This was the lowest rank possible for any civilization that could travel between stars. It meant they were considered weak, primitive, not worth serious attention. The Korath Dominion disagreed. They thought humans were worth attention, but only because humans had something they wanted. Admiral Ven stood at the center of the hall, surrounded by his officers. He was massive, nearly 3 meters tall, with skin like dark leather and 4 arms that ended in hands with too many fingers. His eyes were the color of old blood. When he breathed, the air around him seemed to grow cold. The Korath were conquerors. They had taken 43 worlds from other species. They had never lost a war. They did not know how. Ben watched the human delegation approach, and his wide mouth twisted into something like a smile. "So these are the humans," he said. His voice was deep and rough, like stones grinding together. "I expected something more impressive." Tay stopped 10 meters away from the Admiral. Protocol said he should bow. Protocol said he should show respect to a superior species. Instead, he simply stood there and met the alien's eyes. "Admiral Ven," he said. His voice was calm. "Thank you for agreeing to this meeting." "I did not agree to a meeting," Ven replied. "I agreed to give you a chance to surrender before we destroy you." The other aliens in the hall murmured among themselves. This was entertainment to them. A powerful empire crushing an insect beneath its foot. Park Soo's hand tightened on her recording device. She wanted to say something. She wanted to scream that this was not fair, that humanity had done nothing wrong, that they were only trying to survive. But she stayed silent. That was her job. Watch. Record. Remember. Surrender. Tay repeated the word slowly, as if tasting it. "What exactly are you asking us to surrender?" Ven's smile grew wider. "Your mining operations in what you call the asteroid belt. Your claim to the moons of your outer planets. Your weapons. Your ships." He paused. "Your dignity. And if we refuse, then we will take them anyway. And we will take your planet as well. Your people will serve the Dominion as workers and servants. This is generous. Many species receive far less." The hall was completely silent now. Every alien present waited to see what the human would do. Most of them expected him to fall to his knees, to beg, to offer anything to avoid the coming destruction. Tay did not move. "I need to ask you a question," he said, "before I give you our answer." Ven laughed. It was an ugly sound. "Ask, how many of your soldiers are you willing to lose?" The question hung in the air. Ven stopped laughing. His red eyes narrowed. What? It is a simple question, Tay continued. You say you will take our planet. You say you will make our people into servants. This will require soldiers. Soldiers who will have to fight us. Some of them will die. He tilted his head slightly. How many are you willing to lose? 1,000? 10,000? 1,000,000? Ven's 4 hands curled into fists. It does not matter. We have billions of soldiers. Your entire species could not kill enough to matter. Perhaps, Tay said. Perhaps not. But here is what I know, Admiral. You will not take anything from us for free. Every ship you destroy, we will destroy one of yours. Every city you burn, 1,000 of your soldiers will never go home. Every human you kill will cost you something. He took 1 step forward. Just 1. But something in his eyes made Ven take a step back. We know we cannot win this war, Tay said. Our ships are slower. Our weapons are weaker. Our people are fewer. We have studied your empire. We know what you can do. Park Sue felt her heart pounding. What was he doing? But you need to understand something about humans, Tay continued. We do not fight because we think we can win. We fight because we refuse to lose without fighting. We fight because surrender is worse than death. We fight because it is who we are. Ven stared at him. For the first time, there was something other than contempt in his eyes. Something that might have been confusion. You are saying you will not surrender? I am saying that word does not exist for us. Not in the way you understand it. Tay turned to look at all the aliens watching from the edges of the hall. You all think we are weak. You think we are primitive. You think this war will last a few weeks at most. He turned back to Ven. You are wrong. This war will last until every human is dead, or until you decide the cost is too high. There is no other ending. The hall erupted in noise. Aliens shouting, arguing, laughing in disbelief. But Tay did not hear them. He was watching Ven's face, and for just one moment, he saw something there. Doubt. The stars were beautiful. Captain Yunjin had always thought so. Even now, with death approaching from the darkness between them, she could not help but notice their beauty. Station Business 7 floated behind her ship, a spinning wheel of metal and glass that housed 12,000 people. Miners mostly. Families who had come to the edge of human space looking for a better life. Children who had never seen Earth except in pictures. Jin had 17 ships to protect them. 17 ships and 800 sailors against an enemy fleet of 200 warships. The numbers were simple. The math was clear. There was no way to win. She stood on the bridge of the Hetchy, her hands clasped behind her back, and watched the enemy ships appear on her screen one by one. Each red dot was a Korath vessel. Each one was 3 times the size of her own ship, with weapons that could tear through human armor like paper through water. Captain, her first officer said. His name was Sha Day. He was 50 years old, with gray in his beard and scars on his hands from 30 years of service. They are hailing us. Put it through. The view screen flickered, and a Korath face appeared. It was not Admiral Ven. Ven had died 3 days ago, they said, killed in some accident that no one would explain. This was his replacement, a younger officer named Kron. Human vessel, Kron said. You are surrounded. Your station is targeted. Surrender now, and we will take your people as prisoners. Resist, and we will kill everyone. You have 5 minutes to decide. The channel closed. Jin looked around her bridge. Her crew was young. Most of them were under 30. Some of them were shaking. Others were crying silently, trying to hide their tears. Lieutenant Cha, she said. What is the evacuation status? 3 transports have launched, he replied. They are heading for the inner system. The rest. He hesitated. The rest will not make it in time. Jin nodded. 3 transports. Maybe 2,000 people. That meant 10,000 were still on the station. 10,000 who would die or become slaves if she surrendered. If she surrendered. She walked to the communications panel and opened a channel to all her ships. Her voice was calm when she spoke. This is Captain Yoonjin to all vessels. You know the situation. You know the odds. I am not going to order you to fight. Any ship that wishes to surrender or retreat may do so. No one will think less of you. She paused. But I will not surrender. The HFY will fight. We will buy as much time as we can for the transports. We will make the enemy pay for every meter they advance. And when our ship is broken and our weapons are empty, we will find another way to hurt them. She looked at her crew, at their young faces and frightened eyes, because that is what humans do. We do not give up. We do not stop. We fight to the end, whatever that end may be. The channel stayed open. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then, one by one, the other captains responded. The Jindo stands with you. The Baiko stands with you. The Qingriang stands with you. All 16 ships. Not one chose to leave. Jin felt tears in her own eyes now. She blinked them away. All ships, she said. Attack formation. Target their lead vessels. Make them remember us. The battle began. It was not a fair fight. It was never going to be a fair fight. The Korath had better shields, better weapons, better everything. Their ships moved like predators, surrounding the human fleet and tearing it apart piece by piece. The Jindo was the first to fall. It exploded in a ball of white fire that Jin could see from her view screen. Then the Baiko. Then 3 more ships in rapid succession. But they did not die quietly. The humans fought like wild animals. They threw themselves at the enemy with everything they had. They rammed damaged ships into Korath vessels. They fired weapons even as their hulls were breaking apart. They kept shooting until there was no one left to pull the trigger. And the Korath noticed. Kron watched from his command ship as another of his vessels went dark. A human ship, barely functional, had crashed directly into its engine section. Both ships were destroyed. Impossible, he whispered. They should have surrendered by now. His officer looked at him with confusion. Sir, they are losing badly. It is only a matter of time. That is not the point. Kron could not explain what he was feeling. It was something like fear, but not quite. Something like respect, but darker. They know they are losing. They know they cannot win. Why are they still fighting? He had no answer. On the HFY, Captain Jin was running out of time. Her ship was dying. Half the decks had lost atmosphere. The engines were failing. 3/4 of her crew were dead. She sat in her command chair, blood running down the side of her face from a wound she could not remember receiving. Around her, the remaining crew worked their stations with desperate focus. Status, she said. Weapons at 12%, Cha reported. He was injured too, one arm hanging useless at his side. Engines at 7%. Shields are gone. Jin looked at the view screen. The enemy command ship was close now. So close she could see the lights in its windows. Can we reach it? Cha understood what she was asking. He did not hesitate. Yes, Captain. If we divert all remaining power to engines. Do it. The HFY groaned as it turned. It was not a graceful movement. The ship was too damaged for grace. But it moved. Slowly at first, then faster, picking up speed as it aimed itself at the heart of the enemy fleet. Jin opened the intercom. All hands, she said. Her voice was steady. She was surprised by how steady it was. It has been an honor. The remaining crew did not respond. They did not need to. They knew. The Korath command ship tried to move, tried to turn its weapons on the approaching human vessel. But it was too slow, too confident. It had never expected an enemy to use their own ship as a missile. The hatchie hit at full speed. The explosion lit up the darkness of space like a new star being born. Both ships were destroyed instantly. Kron and his entire command staff died without even understanding what had happened. When the light faded, there was only debris. The Korath won the battle. They took Station Bizen 7. They captured 8,000 humans and killed the rest. But they lost their commander. They lost 3 capital ships. They lost 27 smaller vessels. To a fleet 1/10 their size. News of the battle spread quickly. Other alien species heard what had happened. They heard about the human captain who had rammed her dying ship into an enemy commander. They heard about the 17 ships that had refused to surrender. The Galactic Assembly called an emergency meeting. For the first time in 100 years, they were worried about a Tier 7 species, not because the humans could win, but because they had started to wonder what it would cost to make them lose. Ganymede was cold. It was always cold. The moon of Jupiter had no atmosphere to hold heat, no sun close enough to give warmth. The temperature outside the bunker was negative 150 degrees. Cold enough to kill a man in seconds. Private Biko was 19 years old. He had joined the military 6 months ago, right after the Korath destroyed his home on Mars Colony 7. His mother had died in the attack. His sister had been taken as a prisoner. He did not know where she was. He did not know if she was still alive. He sat in the darkness of the bunker and listened to the wind howling outside. There were 11 soldiers left in his squad. There had been 30 when they arrived. The rest were dead or missing. They had been fighting for 6 days. 6 days without reinforcements. 6 days without supplies. Their food had run out on day 4. Their medical supplies had run out on day 3. Sergeant Omi was in charge now. She was 25 years old, the oldest person in the bunker. She had a bullet wound in her shoulder that she had bandaged herself. The bandage was brown with dried blood. "Report," she said. Her voice was hoarse from dehydration. 4 rifles with ammunition, Ho said. 2 pistols. 3 grenades. Water for maybe 1 more day if we ration. Me nodded slowly. She looked around at the faces of her soldiers. They were children, really. Most of them had never seen combat before this week. Now they were veterans. The ones who survived always became veterans. "The Korath are 3 kilometers away," she said. "They will attack tomorrow, probably at dawn. We cannot hold this position." No one argued. They all knew it was true. "So what do we do?" asked a young soldier named Kinji. She was 18. There were tear tracks frozen on her cheeks. Mi was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled. It was a small smile, tired and sad, but genuine. "We make them pay for it." The night passed slowly. Ho could not sleep. None of them could. They sat in the cold and the dark and waited for the sun to rise over Jupiter's frozen moon. He thought about his mother. She had been a teacher. She taught history to children who had never seen Earth. He remembered her telling him about ancient wars, about soldiers who had faced impossible odds and refused to give up. She had been proud of him when he joined the military. Proud and scared and sad, all at the same time. He wished he could tell her that he understood now. He understood what those soldiers must have felt. Not brave, not heroic, just stubborn. Just unwilling to let the enemy win without paying a price. Dawn came slowly. The sky turned from black to gray to a pale, cold blue. And with the light came the enemy. Ho saw them through a crack in the bunker wall. Korath soldiers, dozens of them, moving across the frozen landscape in perfect formation. They had warmth suits and heavy weapons and vehicles that could cross the ice like water. 12 humans against 50 aliens. No contest. Sergeant Mee raised her rifle. "Remember," she said, "every one we kill is one less that reaches Earth. Every minute we hold is a minute for someone else to escape. We are not fighting to win. We are fighting to matter." Ho aimed his weapon. His hands were shaking from the cold. His fingers were numb. He could barely feel the trigger. The first Korath soldiers reached the bunker entrance. The battle lasted 2 hours. It should have lasted 5 minutes. The Korath had numbers, weapons, training, everything. But the humans would not die. They kept fighting from room to room, position to position, falling back and shooting and falling back again. Mee went down first, killed by a plasma bolt that went through her chest. Kimji picked up her rifle and kept shooting. When Ji ran out of ammunition, she threw herself at a Korath soldier with a knife. One by one, the humans fell. But for everyone that died, 2 or 3 Korath went with them. Ho was hit in the arm on the first hour. The cold actually helped, numbing the pain enough that he could keep fighting. He was hit again in the leg during the second hour. He propped himself against the wall and kept shooting. By the end, there were only 3 humans left. Ho, a soldier named Shin Woo, and another named Yun Hana. They were cornered in the deepest room of the bunker. They had no ammunition left. No weapons, but rocks and their fists. The Korath commander came to see them himself. His name was Roth. He was tall even by Korath standards, with scars on his face from 100 battles. He had been fighting wars for 50 years. He had never seen anything like this. He looked at the 3 humans. They were broken, wounded, barely able to stand. One of them, the boy with the ruined arm, was actually smiling. "Why?" Roth asked. He spoke through a translator, but his confusion needed no translation. "Why did you not surrender? You must have known you could not win." Ho looked up at the alien. He was dying. He knew it. The cold and the blood loss would kill him within the hour. But he did not feel afraid. He felt something else. Something like peace. "You keep asking that question," he said. "I do not think you will ever understand the answer." Roth crouched down to look the human in the eyes. "Try to explain it to me." Ho thought about his mother, about his sister, about Earth, which he had never seen but had always dreamed of visiting. "We do not fight because we think we can win," he said. "We fight because it is the only way we know how to live. Surrender means becoming something less than human. Death means dying as ourselves." He coughed. Blood came up with it. "You can kill us," he continued. "All of us. Every human in the galaxy. But you cannot make us choose to stop fighting. That choice does not exist for us." Roth stared at him for a long time. The Korath commander had conquered 12 worlds. He had killed millions. He had never once felt what he was feeling now. It was not fear exactly. It was something worse. It was the realization that he might be fighting an enemy that could not be defeated in any way that mattered. He ordered the 3 survivors taken as prisoners rather than executed. He did not know why. Perhaps he wanted to study them. Perhaps he wanted to understand. That night, aboard his ship, Roth could not sleep. He kept thinking about the boy's smile, about the way the humans had kept fighting long after any rational being would have given up. He began to wonder, for the first time, if this war had been a mistake, not because the Korath could not win. They could. They were winning, but because victory might cost more than they were willing to pay. The War Council chamber of the Korath Dominion was a place of power. Its walls were lined with the banners of conquered species. Its floor was stained with the blood of enemies who had dared to challenge the Dominion and failed. For 1,000 years, this room had seen nothing but victory. Today, it saw something else. The council members sat in silence as Commander Roth gave his report. They were the oldest and strongest of the Korath, leaders who had built an empire through war and terror. They had never known doubt. They were learning it now. "The war continues as expected," Roth said. His voice was flat, tired. "We control 70% of human space. Their major colonies have fallen. Their fleet is reduced to scattered ships hiding in asteroid fields and gas clouds." "Then we are winning," said the council leader. His name was Male. He was ancient, nearly 300 years old, with skin like cracked stone and eyes that had seen the birth and death of civilizations. "Yes," Roth said. "We are winning," but he did not sound like a winner. "Then, why have you called this emergency session?" Male asked. "If we are winning, there is nothing to discuss." Roth was quiet for a moment. He was trying to find the right words. Words that would make the council understand what he had seen. "Have you heard of the Soul Resistance?" he finally asked. The council members looked at each other. Some nodded. Some did not. "A human organization," one of them said. "Terrorists. They attack our occupation forces on Earth." "Yes," Roth agreed. "Their leader is a woman named Han Yuna. 3 months ago, we killed her. We confirmed her death. We saw her body." He paused. "Last week, she led an attack on our command center in what the humans call Asia. 40 of our soldiers were killed." The council chamber erupted in confused murmurs. Male raised a hand for silence. "How is this possible? You said she was dead." "She was dead. And yet she is not." Roth shook his head slowly. "The humans have a saying. They say she has 9 lives, like one of their small predator animals. Our soldiers have started to believe she cannot be killed at all." "That is superstition," another council member said. "Impossible. Of course it is impossible. And yet, the effect is real. Our troops fear her. They fear all of them." Roth looked around the room. "Do you know how many resistance cells are operating on occupied Earth?" No one answered. 437. "We destroy one, and 2 more appear. We capture their leaders, and new leaders take their place. We burn their hiding places, and they dig new ones. They fight us with bombs, with guns, with knives, with their bare hands if necessary." He stood up and walked to the center of the chamber. "I have commanded armies for 50 years. I have fought 12 species. I have never seen anything like this. These humans, they do not fight like soldiers. They fight like something else. Something that does not know how to stop." Male leaned forward. "What are you suggesting, Commander? That we cannot defeat them?" "I am suggesting that we need to understand what defeating them actually means." He activated a display. Numbers appeared in the air, glowing red. "These are our casualties since the war began. 2 million soldiers dead. 12,000 vehicles destroyed. 97 warships lost." He let the numbers hang in the air. "By every military calculation, this is acceptable. This is victory." He changed the display. New numbers appeared. "These are the projections for complete human subjugation. Assuming they continue to resist at current levels, we will lose another 8 million soldiers over the next 10 years. 300 warships. Resources that could be used to expand our empire in other directions." The council was silent. "And there is something else," Roth continued. "Something the calculations cannot measure. Morale." He looked at each council member in turn. "Our soldiers are tired. They are frustrated. They expected quick victory against a weak enemy. Instead, they have found an enemy that bites back at every step. An enemy that makes them pay for every centimeter of ground. An enemy that would rather die than surrender." He thought of Private Biko, the young human he had captured on Ganymede. The boy was still a prisoner, still smiling, still refusing to give up hope. "I have spoken with many of them," Roth said. "The humans, I mean. I have tried to understand them. And I think I finally do. Mail waited. They are not fighting us, Roth said slowly. Not really. They are fighting the idea of defeat itself. Every human soldier, every resistance fighter, every child who throws a rock at our vehicles, they all believe the same thing. They believe that as long as one human is still fighting, they have not lost. He shook his head. We cannot defeat that. Not with weapons. Not with numbers. We can kill every human alive, and their children will fight us. We can burn every city on Earth, and the survivors will dig holes and fight from those. We can win every battle for the next 100 years, and they will still believe they have not lost. The chamber was completely silent now. So what do you suggest? Mail asked finally. His voice was quiet. Old Roth did not answer immediately. He looked at the banners on the walls. All those conquered species. All those victories. They had meant something once. Now they just looked like cloth. I suggest we consider the possibility that there are some enemies who cannot be conquered, he said. Not because they are stronger than us, but because they will never accept being conquered. Never, no matter what we do. Mail closed his eyes. He was thinking of his own people's history, of wars they had fought, of enemies they had broken. He could not remember any enemy like this. You are asking us to withdraw, he said. I am asking us to be wise, Roth replied. There is no shame in choosing not to fight a battle that cannot be won. There is only shame in wasting lives for nothing. The council debated for 3 days. They argued and shouted and threatened. Some wanted to continue the war. Some wanted to destroy Earth completely, to end the human threat forever. But in the end, the numbers won. The cost was too high. The reward was too small. There were other species to conquer, other worlds to claim. Worlds that would surrender when they saw Karth power. Worlds that understood how to lose. The decision was made. On occupied Earth, Han Yuna watched a Korath transport lift off and disappear into the sky. It was the first of many. The enemy was leaving. She did not celebrate. There was nothing to celebrate. Her world was in ruins. Millions were dead. It would take generations to rebuild, but they were still here. Still human. Still fighting, and that was enough. 7 years had passed since the war began. 7 years of blood and fire and death. 7 years that had changed everything. Admiral Lite stood at the entrance of the neutral station and looked up at the same ceiling he had looked at all those years ago. The same black stone floors? The same ancient architecture built for giants. But he was not the same man. His hair had gone completely white. There were deep lines carved into his face, each one representing a loss he could never forget. He walked with a cane now, his left leg damaged beyond repair by an injury he had received 3 years ago. But his eyes were still sharp, still alive with something that had never gone out. Beside him walked his delegation. Different faces from before. Park Su was there, older now, no longer a lieutenant but an admiral in her own right. Han Yuna walked with them too, her presence a message to everyone watching. The ghost of Seoul was real. The woman who could not be killed. The aliens in the hall watched them pass. They did not laugh this time. They did not stare with pity. They watched with something closer to respect. Mail stood at the center of the hall. He was even older now, if that was possible. His skin had cracked in new places. His movements were slow. He looked like something ancient and tired. Beside him stood Roth, no longer a commander but an ambassador. His scars had multiplied. His eyes had changed. He looked like someone who had seen things he could never forget. Admiral Tay, Mail said. His voice was barely a whisper. We meet again. We do, Tay replied. He did not bow. He did not need to anymore. Thank you for agreeing to this meeting. It is not a meeting, Mail said. Something like a smile crossed his cracked face. "It is a surrender." The word hung in the air. Around them, representatives from 100 species watched in stunned silence. The Korath Dominion had never surrendered. Never. In 1,000 years of conquest, they had never once admitted defeat. Until now. "We withdraw all claims to human space," Mail continued. "We return all prisoners of war. We pay reparations for the damage we have caused." He paused. "We acknowledge humanity as equals in the galactic community." Tay listened without expression. He had imagined this moment many times. He had expected to feel triumph, victory, joy. Instead, he felt only tired. "I have a question," he said. "Before we sign anything." Mail nodded. "Why?" The old Korath leader was silent for a long moment. Then he looked at Roth. "Tell him." Roth stepped forward. He met Tay's eyes directly. There was something between them now, something strange. Not friendship, but understanding. "We realized something," Roth said. "Something that changed everything." "What?" "That you were never fighting us." Tay frowned. "I do not understand." Roth smiled. It was a sad smile, tired and old. "You were not fighting the Korath Dominion," he said. "You were fighting defeat itself. The idea of giving up. The possibility of surrender." He shook his head slowly. "We could have destroyed your fleet, burned your planets, killed every soldier you had, and still you would not have lost. Because losing requires accepting that you have lost. And that is something your species cannot do." He looked around the hall at all the watching aliens. "We finally understood what makes humans different," he said. "It is not your technology. It is not your numbers. It is not even your courage, though you have plenty of that." He turned back to Tay. "It is your stubbornness. Your absolute refusal to ever give up." Tay was quiet. He thought of all the people who had died in this war. Captain Yoon-jin and her crew. Private Biko and his squad. Millions of civilians. Millions of soldiers. People who would never see this moment. "We lost a lot," he said finally. "More than you know." "I know," Roth replied. "We counted the bodies. We recorded every death. We kept careful statistics, as we do in every war." He paused. "In any other war, those numbers would have meant your defeat. But in this war, they meant something else." "What?" "They meant that you were willing to pay the price. Any price. For as long as it took." Roth's voice was heavy with something that might have been respect. "We could kill you, but we could not make you quit. And an enemy who cannot quit can never truly be beaten." The treaty was signed that day. All the terms Mail had offered. Full withdrawal. Full reparations. Full recognition of human rights and human space. When it was done, Tay stood alone at a window overlooking the stars. Park Soo found him there, staring at nothing. "Admiral," she said, "we should celebrate. Should we?" She frowned. "We won." Tay turned to look at her. There was something in his eyes that she could not quite read. "Did we? Or did we just survive long enough for them to decide we were not worth killing?" Sue did not have an answer to that. "There is an old saying on Earth," Tay said. "Victory has 1,000 fathers, but defeat is an orphan." I think the truth is more complicated. I think sometimes victory and defeat are the same thing, wearing different faces. He looked back at the stars. "We did not win this war," he said softly. "We simply refused to lose. That is not the same thing. But maybe it is enough." 20 years later, a human historian wrote about the war. She called it the most important conflict in galactic history, not because of what was won or lost, but because of what it proved. It proved that there was something more powerful than weapons or numbers or technology. something that could not be measured or calculated, something that lived in the heart of every human being, the will to never stop. The Galactic Assembly eventually created a new classification system. Tier levels were abandoned. Instead, species were measured by different qualities: intelligence, technology, resources. And one new category, created specifically because of humanity. Persistence. On that scale, humans ranked first, higher than any other species in recorded history. Not because they were the strongest or the smartest or the most advanced, but because when the universe knocked them down, they got back up. Every single time. No matter how many times it happened. No matter how much it hurt. They got back up. And that, in the end, was what made them human. Roth lived for another 100 years. He spent most of that time studying humanity, trying to understand the species that had taught his people the meaning of defeat. When asked, near the end of his life, what he had learned, he gave a simple answer. Humans do not fight to win, he said. They fight to the end. There's a difference. A victory can be undone. A surrender can be erased from memory. But fighting to the end, that is forever. That is something that cannot be taken away. He paused. And that is why, of all the species in the galaxy, they are the ones who frighten me the most. Not because they are dangerous, but because they are eternal. As long as one human exists, humanity survives. And as long as humanity survives, they will never, ever stop fighting. He smiled, old and tired and full of strange respect. In 1,000 years, we will be forgotten. Our empire will be dust. But they will still be there. Still fighting. Still refusing to quit. And that, he said, is something worth being afraid of.